Welcome, YouTube. This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the third album by Hollywood Undead. Basically, this album is called Notes from the Underground, and it came out in very early 2013. This was after a couple hit albums by them, the rap rock classic in a lot of ways, especially circa the internet type rap and those sorts of sensations with Swan Songs. And then another hit album which had a lot more pop rap and kind of popish kind of feel when it embraced Danny Boy on here, which was American Tragedy. So this one kind of brings it back to Swan Songs. I feel like Danny Boy, he had some hit hooks on American Tragedy, but I feel like this one is kind of more circa the sort of stuff that Deuce was trying to do with it on Swan Songs and that type of stuff. Definitely had like a more rap rock and kind of just mildly new metal, but just kind of more of like a rap rock kind of edge just overall. Just kind of had that context of bringing it back where I feel like American Tragedy was kind of popish and kind of had stuff that was kind of vibing with like trying to cross over and get them more exploited to like mainstream and not just like the rock charts or the rap charts, but actually like Billboard 100 charts are trying to break out with some of the singles off of that album. But this one tries to do the same type angle that like happened with Swan Songs with songs like Undead and Young and like Everywhere I Go and some of those type ones and like Black Dahlia and some of those has very similar singles that I definitely commend that these folks for doing that and saying when folks used to say that maybe they sold out or they went pop or something like that, this album kind of brings it back to it. I think definitely Danny Boy, at least on this album, competes with Deuce. He has some pretty similar ones. There's some real searing kind of hooks on here. This is just an overall better album. Now, I liked American Tragedy. I did respect the pop angle that that one kind of had, but I admit that it did feel kind of different from Swan Songs. It was just kind of trying to be like it was just trying to be like an advanced and kind of more makeshift and kind of more amalgamated version of Swan Song. So basically, the stuff that you got on Swan Songs on American Tragedy, it was trying to like cross over and be like something that you'd hear on everyday radio. But this one brings it back, and I do like the concept behind it. I think in some cases, I would almost say I like American Tragedy more than this album, despite the fact that I vibed more with this project. It's kind of strange because I really like Swan Songs even though I gave that a lower score back in the day. I really like the vibe of Swan Songs, and they, of course, work great with Deuce. I like the crossover appeal of American Tragedy. That was just an excellent album, and I feel like that album just had more party songs on it than this one. This one kind of has like a good 4 or 5, maybe even 6 kind of. I want to say like 4 or 5 down tempo and kind of more thought provoking and just kind of more makeshift kind of pop rock kind of tunes on here. Just the sort of stuff just the sort of stuff that you just listen to in like the makeshift malaise of like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 p.m. But these are not riff heavy. These are not like rock and metal s. They're just very much pop type appeals where Danny Boy just kind of these are not like riff heavy metal type affairs. They're just more of like kind of pop type feels with just like a rock tinge towards it. So this is kind of a gateway album. I feel like this is more of a gateway album than American Tragedy, or I think you probably had to know at least a little bit about Hollywood Undead to appreciate American Tragedy more. But this one kind of feels like one, or if you like pop music and you find these guys because you heard some of this on like rock radio, this has a lot of direction as far as just crossing into like this is kind of a gateway album that crosses over into the pop type field with songs similar to like Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato, and then it also has like some rap oriented type stuff just being in that sort of feel with just some good club hopping type tunes and rap kind of rock oriented rap, but just with like a more electronic and synthy kind of clubbish kind of rap type hits on here. And then it has like some rock and metal cuts. So it's just a good amalgamation of just kind of being a conduit for multiple styles. But this does have I mean, that's about the only real weakness to this album is that just had more songs that just kind of the pop just doesn't suit them. They pulled it off on American Tragedy, but these are just kind of very bland and they just don't have as good a taste this time when they try to do these ballad-esque kind of makeshift tunes. That's about the only real weakness towards it, but I do like most of this album besides that. So there's 14 songs. I'm reviewing the deluxe edition. I'm going to get to the singles, but basically to talk about it, me liking I wound up liking 8 songs out of 14 if we count the 3 extra songs on the deluxe. That's definitely kind of the thing on here. This good thing about it. That's the vast majority. That's I mean that's more than half, but not terribly much more than half. I mean, that's just kind of the thing. So I'm gonna decide as we go as to the score I'm gonna give it because the more I think about it, that really was not as many as like what probably could have been. But So we'll go ahead and talk about the singles. So the first single is a song I've heard on the radio a couple times, and it's definitely a highlight from Hollywood Undead. This just has an excellent hook on here, and it's the song "We Are." This is kind of like a murky kind of vehicle highlight that pulls off like being starry-eyed. This is kind of a starry-eyed song, just a lot more sparkly of a song. Has a great hook on here, and it's just kind of a night bop that just has that real sparkle towards it. It's just kind of one that's just a very catchy night bop for just relaxing in your car and just kind of cruising around and just appreciating the sights and just weaving through the city, just maybe getting some supplies and that type of stuff as far as going out and about. I mean, it can kind of be a party song, but this is a lot more just low key, just kind of a murky kind of feeling towards it, just kind of hanging out in the car, maybe smoking like a blunt out the window, something like that. Just those kind of just relaxed kind of tunes as far as that. It's just not quite as crazy as some of the other singles on here, but it is just like a nice kind of night oriented type tune. So it does have that kind of energy. It's just a great hook and a great single to kind of hear. This is a great song. If I heard this on the radio when being out and about, I would definitely turn the music up because it's just a good, appreciable song to kind of listen to and such. Just an overall highlight. Dead Bite is the second single, and this is a pretty good hit song too. This is a lot more of like a biting kind of house party bop. Definitely like the riffs on this song. It's just an easy quality social cut, and it's very seamless, and it just has a very creepy hook. So these are some of the singles. I definitely feel like Danny Boy stood out on some of these. I mean, I do kind of feel like Deuce probably would have had the edge, but I do feel like he's keeping up with them and he at least manages to get some of these in like a good sense. Like We Are is a good example of like a Deuce quality hook and just an excellent overall song for Hollywood Undead. But this one's like another one. This has the really kind of creepy hook on here. It really feels like a horrorcore kind of rock song. So it's just interesting because they're called Hollywood Undead and they do kind of have that zombie and undead kind of look about them, just for them to have something in the horrorcore pitch. So this is just a good one. It's great little comfortable song for like a house party and some of those type feelings. Just kind of after hours kind of relaxed craziness as far as that kind of goes. It's just a good one. Another Way Out is the third single. This is a high octane kind of party jam. Definitely like a high octane house party jam and just a solid nightclub bop. I mean, it's a better house party jam in my opinion than a nightclub bop, but I would take hearing this in the club were it to happen. I feel like either way, it's just got a good kind of quick paced riff on here and just really is kind of exhilarating. It's a catchy kind of uppity energy kind of song. So this one's probably the most uppity out of the three singles. Like I feel like Dead Bite is definitely like the house party kind of congregating and fraternizing kind of song, but Another Way Out's just got a little bit more of a pace. It's definitely a good dance song for the ladies as far as that kind of goes. Just a good uppity kind of song for that. So all three of the singles are pretty hit induced, I would have to say. We Are is just the one that you'd probably hear the most, but I feel like all three of these really did a good job. I mean, this album. I mean, this album has a shorter promotion cycle. Is interesting just because their first two albums had a lot of singles. Both of them had like 5, 6, 7 singles, something like that. So it's good. I'm glad that they at least pushed this album a little bit, but it kind of made me want like a fourth single or something like that. So yeah, there's 14 songs on here. I wound up recommending 8, so I'll go ahead and recommend those. So they would be We Are, maybe it's 9. Yeah, I wound up recommending 9 out of 14. So if I said earlier that I recommended 8, there's actually 9. So that's a little bit better. So it's going to get a little bit of a higher score. So the 9 songs are We Are, Dead Bite, Another Way Out, Pigskin, Up in Smoke, One More Bottle, Kill Everyone, From the Ground, and Delish. So I feel like Kill Everyone's a pretty nice cut on here. This is definitely a very lively, rowdy kind of party track. It's just a good, noisy kind of crunk song, and it's very exhilarating. This is one of the more rock-induced ones, so this one's not quite as rap-oriented, but I did like the riffs on the songs. It's very lively and rowdy. Definitely appreciated that one. I feel like there's a couple of Smoke songs on here, Pigskin and Up in Smoke. Another real highlight on here is Up in Smoke. This is just kind of an easy kind of Smoke one track, just a lazy kind of house party bop, and it's a good song to kick back with like the PS2 and some munchies with your buddies and that type of stuff. This really feels like a Bob Marley kind of song if it was like a rap song. This has that real kind of mellow kind of guitar licks and this lazy kind of Smoke session. Hollywood Undead definitely realized that this would be a good song to spark one up to or a few up to and just kind of kick back a bit. It's a very relaxed kind of song, definitely more of like a house party kind of session, but it just works so easily. It's just an easy kind of one to kind of just have like the ambience too. Pigskin is another one like that. Pigskin is another kind of stoned highlight. This is just a very stoned, hazy kind of ladies cut. Definitely like the pitch of this song. Great song for the ladies here. It's got a nice down low kind of social feel about it, and it just has some good bass thumps. Definitely recommend this one. It's just an easy kind of club bop, house party kind of bop for that sort of sense. It's kind of a this is kind of a good house party and out and about kind of social cut, definitely would have to say, but it's very unsung. It just doesn't come off quite as immediately as type 1, but I feel like these are definitely some ones if you need like a step back from like the usual flashy kind of synthy type club hits and electro type hits that you usually hear with Friday nights and those type things. This is a good alternative to that. So it's just an overall good one. I feel like One More Bottle is another nice one. Another kind of offhanded and unsung type party track is One More Bottle. This is very much an offhanded kind of night out track. This kind of has like a synthy or just kind of has like a screechy kind of beat on here. It's pretty good. I like the wheeze that this beat kind of has. Just a nice night out kind of song. Good song to be embellished and just kind of appreciate the surroundings too. And it's just an overall good flashy outing song. So it's just an overall good flashy outing song. This is another one that's kind of similar to like some of the off the wall and kind of more unsung cuts that LMFAO would kind of do. It has that kind of pitch with Hollywood Undead being such profound party animals like they are. It makes sense that they're able to just kind of have some of these more unsung kind of ousting songs as far as that kind of goes. This is an example of that. From the Ground is like a very paced kind of DJ house music type party bubbler. I feel like this one's definitely a good highlight for that. It's just got some nice murky type beat on here with a metal edge. So this is definitely a song that you can mosh to. It has some good mosh type feelings towards it. It has the metal type feels of it. So that's pretty good to kind of get that one. But this has a very overall kind of horror-ish kind of murky type beat on here too. It feels like something that Linkin Park would do with just like the metal edge towards it. So it's just a good example of that. But it does kind of feel like some house music too. This one's not quite as much of a rap song as much as it is just kind of like a good get cranked and like a murky type feeling of DJ house type music. This was something with like a turntable that you would be kind of dancing to at like Friday, Saturday night or Thursday night or something. Is a good example of that. And then Delish is probably one of the more rap oriented songs. So there's not a ton of these, but and then Delish is kind of like a stock, glittery electro club bop. Just a nice dance cut overall, and it just has a very easy kind of vibey hook on here. So this is definitely one that just has a more rap-oriented type sense. It's kind of like a stock kind of crunk club type song as far as that kind of goes. Just something that feels like it's ripped out of the 2000s. Just an easy kind of going one, just a simple kind of minded one as far as just kind of picking up the pace and just having a good dance cut as far as that kind of goes. It's not overly alternative, not overly kind of metal. It's kind of a simple rap oriented type club cut on here that probably could have used another song like this. This is only on the deluxe edition. It's the same thing with One More Bottle. When I talked about that, that was another highlight that just kind of was a good one for being on the deluxe. But I wound up liking 2 out of 3 songs on the deluxe, so I would recommend it. If you can find either version, I would just go ahead and get the deluxe because out of like I wound up liking 7 out of 11 songs on the regular edition, which is actually pretty good. That's pretty much almost like a 10 out of 10 if I were to just rate that one. But I feel like or that would be at least like an 8, 8.5, something like that, maybe even a 9. But I feel like on this version, there's like at least one more song that I didn't enjoy, so that would bring it 9 out of 14. But I look after the concept that Delish is a pretty excellent one. 2 out of 3 of them on there are. And, you know, like I talked about before, most of the songs I didn't recommend, which would just be Lion, Rain, Believe, and Outside are all kind of more pop rockish, kind of makeshift and more ballad-esque that just don't pull it off as well. I feel like they were able to do it. It just was a lot more of an easier approach just because I felt like I don't know. I mean, Deuce could do this. That's the thing. Deuce had the ability to do songs like this with songs like Circles off of his Swan Song sessions. Deuce just had a lot more kind of ambient and just kind of more ruffled kind of edge towards him when he would do these type of songs when he did Makeshift and would try to shoot for like a more commercial market. But Danny Boy, I mean, he did it on American Tragedy. I remember him doing it on that album, but these songs just didn't pull it off that well. I feel like they do have the ability to kind of be makeshift and pop rockish and a lot more commercial, but it felt like Hollywood Undead really had a niche for themselves with these like electronic and kind of more synthy rap rock type tunes that just had the metal edge. And when they stepped out of that valve, they just didn't quite nail it as well. They did it on American Tragedy, but that makeshift kind of feel just needs more work. It's not really. They try to do job music and music for work and blue collar and that type of stuff, but they just don't pull it off this time. It really just didn't. Was not as effectual. And then Medicine, I look at the concept behind this one. I really didn't like the riff on this song. It's one of the few riffs on this album I just didn't enjoy. It was kind of twangy and just kind of not as melodic and soothing as I would have liked from like a rock riff or something like that. Just did not quite have the captivation that I was looking for. But I would have to say that didn't happen very often. So that's one of the few times that I just didn't enjoy like the metal type stuff that they normally did on here. But it was just very offhanded and kind of abstract more so than I would have wanted. So that's just kind of the thing. But me liking 9 songs out of 14, I'm gonna go ahead and give this album like an 8.25 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty good. I did like the vast majority, but I kind of feel like maybe it could have used another single and maybe one of the ballads and makeshift kind of songs could have been slashed in favor of like another party song, something like that, just something to kind of give it more edge. I mean, I understand that they didn't pump as many singles out just because they did that so many times on their last couple albums, and plus they did Desperate Measures and stuff like that. But that's the only real weakness to this album, is just that they were not able to pull off the makeshift and blue collar feel quite as well this time. But they did it. They've done it before, and it kind of had the pitch of that, but this time it didn't work. So I look after the concept. The social score, I'll go ahead and give like an 8 out of 10 because I feel like there is some quality on here. Maybe it's just a song or two short of like being like a true weekend classic. I mean, they definitely had the edge, but this is kind of concept music that it's not all for the weekend. I feel like this can definitely, maybe not so much be Monday morning, Tuesday morning, at work kind of music throughout the standard week. But I definitely feel like some of this is definitely music for like Wednesday, Thursday evening and afternoon where you're just getting off work and maybe you have work the next day, but you're still able to cut loose like a little bit. It's just kind of like a conduit and kind of transitionary project that had some. It's just kind of like a conduit and kind of transitionary project where it definitely can be weekend material, but it's also kind of for some stuff, or if it's not quite the weekend, you still have some like tangible stuff to kind of enjoy. So it's just kind of amongst that. It's kind of blue collar, but it's kind of not. It's just kind of like transitionary in that process as far as kind of halfway fucking with that sort of vibe. So that's kind of the thing. But I look after it like in terms of the future, like Hollywood Undead dropped an album in November 20 or Hollywood Undead dropped an album in the summer of 2022. So they've been around recently. They are still very much around. I'm going to have to review some more of these, but this is definitely a pretty good hit. I think it's up there with Swan Songs, and I did like American Tragedy too. So really, that's 3 for 3 for them.